Hello, everyone. I hope you're all having a fantastic time at Testmu conference. I'm Devansh Bhardwaj, and I'm excited to introduce a session that tackles a crucial question. How do we measure and ensure the quality of our deliverables? In today's session, titled Dancing with Metrics, Monitoring for Keeping on Track, we will explore key elements that sustain your output. We'll start by discussing how to prepare for measurement, the right metrics to focus on, the role of automation in gathering data, and most importantly, how to interpret the results for actionable insights. Guiding us through this journey is Mesut Durukal, a senior QA automation engineer at Indeed with 15 plus years of experience in industrial automation, IoT platforms, SaaS, PaaS, and cloud services, autonomous mobile robots, and more. Before we start, I want to remind all the attendees that this session will be around 30 to 45 minutes long. And in case you have to drop off in between, worry not, since this and all other sessions are being recorded and will be uploaded on the Lambda Trust YouTube channel for you to, so you can go back and listen to them again and share them with your peers. Now, let us dive into quality measurement with Mesut. Please join me in welcoming him. Mesut, the stage is yours, man. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Devansh. Let me share my screen and let's get started. Alrighty. Okay, so hello everybody. My name is Mesut Durukal. I'm a quality assurance automation engineer and I'm originally from Turkey, but I'm located in Japan. So it's midnight for me, but I believe there are several people joining from lots of different places. So good morning, good afternoon, good evening from wherever you are joining. And I hope you are enjoying the conference. I think it's my second time talking in this wonderful event after last year. And this time I'll be talking about monitoring activities in terms of the quality assurance and the quality of the products that we are developing. I believe it's an important aspect because we are trying to build, develop, and release some products with high quality. We are trying to build some good products. But what is the definition? What is the meaning of a good product? And how can we be sure that we are building the correct or the good product? We are building a high quality. What are the metrics to measure that? And how can we do that? So I'm leaving some socials on the slides and feel free to get connected and feel free to follow. So what we will discuss is, firstly, we will discuss how we can apply or build our monitoring processes and what kind of metrics we can follow to ensure our quality assurance activities and the quality of products and the processes. Because when we are talking about quality, it's not only the product that we are developing, but how we are developing as well. Like we can improve not only the things that we are developing, but how we are developing them. Because it is even a wider perspective, right? Because we can stop developing something and we can start developing something else. But how we build will be the culture of the quality culture of our organization and the structure. And then I'll show you one practical application from one of my last projects, and finally we will sum up. So let's get started with the first part. So how can we, or maybe where can we use monitoring? I will share some examples from real life. For example, on the left side, if you are going jogging, for example, you might be using some digital apps, right? You might have a smartwatch, which is monitoring some metrics. For example, you can see your duration, how much you already have run, or like what is your average pace, even your heart rate, right? What is the minimum metrics? What is the maximum? And by reading those metrics, of course, you can understand your progress, like how much you already have run and what is left for your target. And you can get some critical metrics too. For example, some maybe even notifications. Like if your heartbeat is too high, then maybe it is time to a little bit slow down, right? So this is the action item that you can drive by reading those metrics. Similarly, on the right hand side, when you are driving, Think about you don't have a console in front of you. How you would feel? You would not feel confident, right? Because you are driving, but you don't have any idea about what you have. Like, for example, what is your temperature? Is it normal? Or there is some unexpected situations? What is your air pressure in the wheels, in the tires? Or lots of different metrics, like what is the gas or what is the gasoline level, lots of different metrics. And for example, how much kilometers did I already go? Or how much more I have to go so that I can do a feature estimation as well. Like if I'm halfway and if I went already 1 hour, then I can guess that more or less it will be another 1 hour, right? With a linear projection. If I don't have these metrics, if I don't have the console in front of me, I would not have any idea about how I'm going and if I'm on the correct track or not. So this is just an example from real life, and it shows us how critical, how important it is. And it is as similarly critical in our projects, the projects or the products that we are developing as well. So monitoring is taking a snapshot of the moment to understand what kind of progress we did, or if we are going with the same pace, will we target our goals? Will we reach to our goals or purposes or not? Maybe we need to add some more resources, or maybe we need to do another prioritization about the tasks. If we understand that we will not be able to complete all the tasks or not. So it is taking a snapshot and then widening the perspective by connecting to the past and the future and deriving some action items. But to be able to taking the screenshot to snapshots, our environment should be visible, right? And it should be informative. Even if we try to read some metrics, if our environment is not transparent, if it is not representing the numbers or the metrics that we are following, then we will not be successful. So first of all, prepare and customize your environment to make it transparent and informative. But again, taking only the snapshot of the moment might be misleading if you are not widening your perspective. For example, this scene you are seeing on the slide is from a funny Turkish movie. And in this scene, a soldier is somehow is becoming a volunteer for a secret mission, and his commander is sending to one place, I think to the enemy lines. And at some point, he is asking where he is, and he says, "I'm in the middle of forest," but actually he is in the middle of a desert. And he asks how possible, because he thinks that he's in the middle of a forest because of the bushes around himself, so that he's stuck on a very narrow perspective, right? He cannot focus on a wider perspective. He cannot widen her horizon or the vision. So if we are stuck only on a very narrow, momentarily instance, it might be misleading. We have to zoom out to see the big picture. So the key aspect here is catching the moment, capturing the snapshot, and then accumulating with the past results to build some historical artifacts, and then projecting to the future to be able to guess or estimate our future projection. So this is the idea. So measurement or monitoring looks wonderful, right? It just looks very helpful. And we can get a lot of answers to lots of different questions. Like how much of the software we already tested, our coverage, right? Or will be testing be on time if we do the full feature projection? How long will it take to test? Or we can get lots of different insights about the bugs, like how many bugs did we catch already? Or what are their distribution, like how many bugs were in critical levels, high severity levels, or how many bugs are in low criticality levels or the priority levels? how effective our tests were. Like we can see how many tests we have. We can see the number of tests as a metric. And depending on this number of tests, how many bugs we catch. So we will discuss, of course, only the number of tests we have or only the number of bugs does not mean anything, right? For example, I catch 10 bugs. Okay, what's the meaning of that? Is 10 good? Is 10 bad? Or what's the meaning? So again, if we just stuck on specific numbers, it might be misleading and it might not mean anything. So we have to bind with something else, we have to accumulate with other results, and we have to derive some meaningful results. And if we do that, we can even get some further implications too. We can take some decisions to the next phase of the activities. We can understand if we have to change our processes, if we have to improve something, we can find out some improvement rooms. And on top of that, of course, all these kind of findings will be an evidence to our reports, because sometimes we make some reports to maybe senior level management or different teams or different levels of organizations, right? So to support our claims, we can share these results and the monitoring metrics as an evidence to our report or claims. And one more thing, again, monitoring can help us a lot, but it will not do itself. Another real life example, I'm measuring my weight. I'm a little bit overweight lately. Every day I'm tracking it, but it doesn't change, right? Because I don't change my dietary habits. I keep continue eating a lot, and if I only measure my weight, measuring itself will not help. I have to derive some action items and I have to apply them, and then I will track continuously if the actions that I'm taking are supporting my target or not. Because sometimes I'm hearing from different people like we are monitoring these quality metrics, like we are tracking the number of bugs or the number of test coverage. We have 90% test coverage and blah blah blah, the different metrics. So what? So if we do only monitoring itself, it doesn't help anything. We are doing monitoring. Why? Because it's cool, it's wonderful. We are measuring a lot of different metrics. But what is the intention? What is the purpose of measuring those numbers? We have to be aware of this fact, and monitoring is not the eventual purpose, but it's a tool which will help us to reach to our targets or our purposes. So summary of the first part. Make your environment transparent and informative. Customize it if it is not already. I will share some examples how to do that. And then after doing that, bind your findings with the past and the future to widen your perspective and the vision. And then you will find some answers to lots of different questions, and you will have an insight about the quality of the product and the processes that you have. And you will be collecting some inputs to your decisions. You may understand what you have to change or what you have to improve. And for example, if you have to change your some technical background or some tools that you are using, and these kind of findings will be the input for that decision mechanism. And of course, these findings, the artifacts, will be evidence to your reports. And finally, not only the monitoring, but also the action items that you derive from them will help you to go to your targets and the goals. So let's continue with the second part, which is the quality metrics. Okay, quality is wonderful. But what should I or what can I follow? What kind of metrics can I use? So let's go over them. So I think you will not able to read all the metrics on this slide until I go to the next, because there are too many. Like if we sit together, we do a little workshop on the quality metrics that we can follow. I'm sure we can derive hundreds of them. There are too many. But it's not possible to track all of them, right? And it is not feasible, it is not reasonable to follow all of them. But which one can I follow? So we have to decide to a subset. But how can I decide to the subset? So there is a decision criteria that we can follow. Of course, you can prepare your own list, but this is just a suggestion made by Kem Kainer, who suggests the metrics that you are trying to follow should be following the criteria, which is correlation, consistency, tracking, predictability, discriminative power, and reliability. For example, if you are following a metric, but it doesn't help any, or it doesn't give you any idea to discriminate if something is good or bad, then why are you following this metric, right? So it should have a discriminative power, and of course, it should be consistent. It should not be fragile depending on the conditions. It should be reliable. Like if you are following this metric, it should not be giving any false alarms or any maybe silent horrors. It should be reliable. You should be able to rely on the insights collected by those metrics. And the different metrics we are collecting should be correlated. They are all they have to be serving to the same purpose, to the same target. So this is just an example decision criteria, but again, you can prepare your own list, and upon that, you can decide your subset of the metrics that you will follow. But again, let's try to make a little study to derive an example of subset. So we have some goals, right? Some product goals, and we have some metrics to track if we are on the correct track or not, and if we are progressing well. What are those? When we are developing a product, first of all, of course, we want to be confident on the product that we are developing. What it means? It means we want to build a high quality product with, for example, the minimum number of bugs, or at least the minimum number of critical bugs, which means the complaints we get from the customers, and then maybe the number of hot fixes, or the internal errors, the failures, maybe mean time between failures, or mean time to fix the failures. So we can discuss about lots of different metrics. But quality of the product is one thing, on the one hand. On the other hand, while we are building a high quality product, we are trying to do that real fast, right? We are competing in time. So time and speed is the second aspect, quality and time. And what kind of metrics we can discuss in terms of time, like the number of rework or the duration of the reworks. Whenever we have some issues or failures, how much time we need to quickly fix it? Or whenever we have a new implementation, how much time we need to deploy it to the production, starting from developing of the feature, testing, staging, and finally going to the production. So these are all related to the time issues. So quality and time, these are two aspects, but in the meantime, there is a concept called as inner quality, which is basically mostly related with the maintainability of the product. Okay, we want to make the product as reliable as it can, but whenever we have issues, how easily we can resolve it, how maintainable the product that we are developing is. So these are all the metrics that we might follow on our product perspective, right? So we can align our quality assurance metrics with this product metrics. So let's see how we can do that. Similarly, metrics related to the quality. For example, like the quantity of the tests that we are developing. How much or what percentage of the features, what percentage of the specifications are covered by the tests. Like 100% of the requirements are already tested. Or maybe 90% of the requirements are tested. So what is our coverage? But again, quantity itself might be misleading, so that we should support this with the quality of the test too. Like I might already have tests for all of the specifications, but how strong the tests that I'm developing are, like how capable they are to find the bugs. I have written tests for all the specifications, but they cannot find any issues. So 100 test coverage does not mean anything, right? So not only the quality, but also the quality of the test we should measure. How can we measure? That's another topic. Like we can do maybe mutation testing to intentionally inject some bugs and to see if the tests are capable of finding those bugs or not. So kill all the mutants, right? So this is one approach. But of course, we can follow different approaches to see the quality of the tests. But these are the metrics related to the quality of our test cases. On the other hand, how can we support the fast delivery? Like think about, we have a pipeline, and of course we have to verify that the features newly developed are working well, right? So we cannot go production before or without verification. So how fast we can do that? Maybe we can check the automation rate, because most of the time automated tests are faster than manual tests, right? So automation coverage might be one metric. But again, even if we have 100% automation coverage, it might be still slow, because in general, most of the time automated tests are faster. But again, we have to be sure that they are working efficiently and fast enough. Not only the automation coverage, but also maybe the execution duration we can measure to be sure that automated tests are working efficiently. And again, we can continuously try to improve, right? We can always discuss about continuous improvement. This is why we are doing the monitoring. Again, remembering the first section that we discussed, monitoring itself will not do. I should check if the tests are fast enough or not. And if I realize some tests are slow, what I can do is maybe I can split into different subsets, and I can do parallel testing. And again, I can do further time analysis to even further improve the execution. I can try to find at what points the tests are slowing down. Like I can check if I have any unnecessary weights, any dummy weights, and I can replace them with smart weights or polling mechanisms, right? So these are all the things that I can do. And not only the automation coverage or the execution duration, but also, again, how maintainable our test cases are. Because normally, of course, in the first place, we are trying to write reliable tests as much as we can. But even if they fail, can we easily fix them? Like, again, the first thing you will recall, I'm sure, is the broken UI test, right? Whenever they change the screen layout, how easily you can adapt those changes to your test cases. Are you trying to change all the locators inside your spec files? I'm sure you are not, right? You are probably following a page object model, or in another way, another method to separate those locators from the spec file to make your test cases as maintainable as you can. There are lots of different ways. Of course, extracting the locators from the spec file is only one example. But we can follow lots of different approaches and good practices to improve the maintainability of our test cases. Because it's not only reliability, it is not only efficiency, it's not only execution speed. There are lots of different quality aspects. It's not only functionality. Of course, we should talk about reliability too. Are test cases able to catch the issues? Are they reporting the correct results? Or are they missing any bugs? On the other hand, if they are reporting some bugs, are they the real issues or are they false alarms? Because again, this will slow down our pipeline, right? We are again checking if we are supporting fast delivery or not. So these are all different quality metrics that we can follow. But again, the most important thing is, what is your purpose? What are you trying to do? Are you trying to improve your test execution duration or the coverage of the test cases? Are you trying to reduce the number of bugs which are appearing in production? So first of all, prioritize your goals and then derive the relevant metrics. So those should be correlated, right? Relating with the previous slide. Those should be aligned with your goals. These are just examples. And again, after you derive your list, of course, you can set some goals. For example, again, this is one example from my project. We set some goals like test coverage should be 90%. Automation coverage should be 100%. Total regression duration should be less than 10 minutes. So those numbers should be percentages or maybe some numbers lower than some averages, some thresholds. But again, derive your subset and put some goals and thresholds, and then you can start continuously tracking those metrics. After discussing a lot of different aspects of quality metrics, we can categorize them. For example, there are lots of different metrics related to time, right? For example, metrics related to average time to test a fix or a feature. Like whenever I have a new feature, in average, how much time do I need to test? This will give me an idea about predicting the feature estimates or the plannings. Because if I already know the average time, of course, there might be some variations and it will not be always equal to the average, but it will give me an idea. And compared with comparing the difficulty level, and I can guess if I need less time, more time, so it will give me an idea. And similarly, I can check lots of different metrics related to time, like mean time to failure, mean time between failures, schedule slippage, or mean defect resolution time. Whenever I have a defect, in average, how much time do I need to resolve them? These are all metrics categorized under time. And there might be some metrics I'm following categorized under the cost, under the budget, right? This is also important. I can sometimes track how much cost or how much expense do I need in terms of the quality assurance activities or the efforts. Like uh, how much expense do I need on the tools that I'm using or on the resources that I'm using. Maybe I have some costs for the licenses, and there might be several different metrics to fix and track my budget on the correct progress. And there might be some metrics categorized under the quality. Like again, this might be one of the most difficult, right? Because quality, measuring the quality is not easy. Like how good your product quality is. What is the direct measure of it? There is no direct measure, but of course there might be several metrics which might give an idea about the quality of your products and the processes. Like maybe the test case status, how many of them are passing, how many of them are failing, and the distribution of the bugs or the defects, like how many of them are in critical severity levels or priority levels, or how many of them are low criticality or the severity levels. You can track the distribution of the percentage of different bugs and defects. One example from my project, what we did is we prepared a dashboard and we showed several distribution of bugs across different dimensions. For example, what was the distribution of bugs across their severity level and across their status? Like how many of them are already closed, how many of them are waiting for verification, and one other aspect was the percentage of bugs depending on which module or which service they were found. For example, the product that we are developing was a microservices structure, and we have, let's say, 10 different services, and 1/3 of the bugs were found on a specific service out of 10 services. I have 10 services, but 1/3 of the bugs are coming from only one service. So that after realizing this, we can zoom in that specific service to figure out what is wrong, right, with that service. Maybe we are missing some test activities, since a lot of bugs are coming from that specific service. So these kind of metrics can help you to understand some weaknesses in your or the health of the processes. Because finding bugs as early as possible is our intention as the quality assurance teams or the organizations. And again, it's not only the quality which is seen or visible by the end users, but also the inner quality which will affect the maintenance of the products. What can be those kind of metrics? Like the code quality issues, right? The code complexity, readability, understandability, and in general, the maintainability of the code. Because whenever we are developing test code, it is not the product code, right? It will not be delivered to the end users. But again, it is a part of the repository. So whenever we are adding a test code, we should be very careful. If we are adding some complexity, or we are already following good practices to build the efficient and maintainable code. Even if it's a test code, it's a code. We are developing, we are doing development, and we should be following these good development practices. And one more category or the group of metrics, which is not very commonly spoken, is the emotional metrics. We can track lots of different metrics related to the product, related to the process, related to lots of different technical aspects. But please don't remember to check your colleagues, your team members, and your employees, because they are very valuable. Please ping their satisfaction, how they are delighted, how they are proud to work in this organization. Again, it is not easy to measure, but you can follow different practices to get some insights. Like you can do some surveys, you can do one-to-one communication, and in some ways, you can get some feedback to understand how they feel emotionally. Because projects will change, products will change, but you will have the people around your organization. They will not change. I mean, you don't want them to change, right? Too often, because again, it is the culture and the historical memory of your organization. We don't want to lose them too easily. It's important. So summary of the second stage. We are moving to the last stage, but before that, summarizing the second part. First of all, there are too many metrics. We have to decide on the subset. And to decide that, we can follow different decision criteria. And then, after doing that, or while doing that, how can we do? We can align, or maybe we should even align with the product goals, because we are serving to the same goal or the target. And then, to be easily manage those metrics, we can categorize them to group them under different categories, like metrics related to time, related to cost, quality, and, or of course, we should not forget emotional metrics. So let's move on, and let me show you one practical application from one of my actual projects. So first, the very first thing, if you remember what we discussed in the first slides, you are taking a snapshot of the moment, right? So your environment should be transparent, should be informative. So one step we should do for that is customizing your environment. How can we do that? For example, this is an example of our test management system or the environment, which is Jira, by maybe used by most of the people. So what we do is, normally, if we use the default template of a workflow, then we will have open, in progress, and waiting for review and closed status, right? But this is not enough for my state transition. So I need some extra steps to perfectly represent my progress. For example, whenever I start working on a test case, first of all, I'm designing the test case, I'm writing the test steps, and then I'm sending it for review. And then whenever it's reviewed and whenever it's approved, it means it is a valid test case already. It is executable, at least manually. After that, from that point, I start the implementation. I'm start coding. I'm start automating the test code. So the implementation stage starts, and then after implemented, the code review starts, and finally, it is either automated or semi-automated, somehow finalized in the state transition diagram. But after this customization, I can have more idea about on which specific state I'm spending too much time, or like in each transition, how much time I'm spending. But otherwise, if I go with the default template, I would have just open, in progress, and close, right? I will not have enough granularity. So this customization helped me a lot to have more details about my progress. One more example. I can play with the APIs of the systems that I'm using. Like even the Git merge request or pull requests, I can track the timestamps where I raised the MR, and then when it was created, and then when it was merged, so that I can have an understanding of how much time I'm spending for maybe reviewing the MRs, right? Because I know when it was created, and then I know when it was merged. So I know the time in between. And I can add some more extra fields to by playing with the APIs or different interfaces of the systems that I'm using. And then after doing this customization, what I do next is automate my queries. Because again, if I do manual queries every day, like think about I'm doing the query over Jira UI every day manually, it is not easy. But if I automate it, I can schedule a job and it can already do every night, for example, for me. And I can already collect the reports next day. So automation helps me a lot to easily perform or conduct these monitoring activities. And then, of course, whenever I collect some results, of course, I have to store somewhere, not to lose any information. So I can use some storage platforms to upload my data. And then numbers are great. Numbers are giving me a lot of information. But even if I visualize them on some dashboards and graphs, it's even easier to understand what's going on. So please use dashboards to transform your data, raw data, into some visuals. You will be easily understanding if the trends are going high or if there are some critical levels which are already violated by some numbers. So, summarizing the practical application: customize your environment, automate your queries, upload all the evidences, all the reports, all the artifacts, and finally visualize them. Use graphs, use dashboards. So, before closing, last words. Of course, monitoring is very important, but if we properly manage them. Because if we do not properly manage, it might be super misleading. We might be stuck on the totally wrong focus. Please be careful about some hazardous metrics as well. Like, for example, any strict number can be misleading. For example, if you are evaluating the team performances depending on the tasks they complete, depending on the story points they complete, it might be super misleading. Or if you are doing the performance evaluation on the individuals, if you are doing individual performance evaluation, only checking the number of bugs found, it will not be the correct evaluation. So please careful about what you are doing, because sometimes monitoring is very helpful, but only if it is managed properly. And to derive some action items, please do it wisely. Like if you take immediate action items, again, it might be misleading. wait a little bit and try to understand, try to make a comprehensive analysis. And then after some time, you will be knowing from a wide perspective what is going on in your environments, and you will be able to take the correct action items. So thank you so much. And if we have time, I'm more than happy to answer the questions.
Thank you so much. This was such an insightful session. And yes, we do have a lot of questions. I'll
Mm,
quickly put them on stage.
sure.
Okay, so the first question is asked by Mukesh. He's asking, what tools and practices do you recommend for real-time monitoring and
Mhm.
altering of key software metrics?
There are too many tools, like maybe even Jira dashboard itself might help a lot, or maybe you can use Datadog or some monitoring tools. There are too many, but depending on your purpose, you can choose the correct one.
Okay, perfect. I hope that answers his question. Uh, Moving on to the next one, we have a question by Arbor. He's asking, what are some best resources to better educate or inform ourselves to translate the metrics into useful information and actions as QA?
Mhm. I would say mostly the best approach would be customizing to your workflows and your processes, because even if you do have some resources, it might not reflect 100% your workflows. So I would recommend analyzing what you are doing in your project, because it might change even from one project to another. So please analyze what you are doing on the specific work you have, and then you can transform those metrics into some useful information. I would say the first step would be analyzing what you do and what are your goals. What do you try to achieve?
Got it. Thank you for that. We'll take one more question as we are short on time. Um, yeah. So Mukesh is asking, what role do predictive analytics and AI play in enhancing the monitoring of software metrics?
Oh, that's an interesting question. I think it will help a lot because, we are talking about data analysis, right? We are talking about data mining. So we try to access some useful information from several data, because we can track lots of different things while trying to collect some useful insights. AI can help us a lot. But again, the most important thing would be training it properly, giving the correct data, and asking for what we are following, what we are trying to track. And if we manage properly, I think AI would help a lot.
Perfect. Thank you for answering that question as well. Um, I think we'll wrap up the session here since we're
Mhm.
short on time. And but if any of you have any questions you wanted to ask, you can definitely ask us on our Lamnetus YouTube channel, since this session will be recorded and uploaded there. So
Mhm.
feel free to ask your questions there, and we'll be happy to respond. Have a great day, everyone. Thank you for joining. Bye bye.
Thank you. Bye bye.
Bye.